This video demonstrates a client grabbing a can of soup off a high shelf in her pantry. This would fall under instrumental activities of daily living according to the occupational therapy practice framework with the category of meal prep. Obtaining the soup allows the client to initiate cooking for her family and is an activity that supports her daily. This activity can be broken down into movement phases and then further broken down into the specific movements in those phases. The first phase is the stance phase, where she assumes a comfortable and balanced position before beginning any movement. She places herself an appropriate distance from the shelf and directly in front of the can she is grabbing. After the stance phase, she moves into the preparatory phase, where she is preparing her muscles to generate force and momentum to elevate her right upper extremity to be able to reach the can on the shelf. She is generating force in her brachioradialis with her forearm in a neutral position to facilitate elbow flexion. Next, she moves into the movement phase, where she uses motion and acceleration to move the right upper extremity from her side to reach the can on the shelf in front of her. After securely grasping the can, she moves into the follow-through phase and begins to slow the velocity of her movements. This involves lowering the right upper extremity back to the starting position as she prepares to stop all movement. Finally, she moves through the recovery phase and brings her body to a complete stop. This allows her to regain balance to do another movement, such as walking into the kitchen. During the stance phase, she is standing with her ankles in neutral, her knees extended, and her hips in neutral. She is standing up straight with her trunk in a natural resting position and her neck is in neutral, allowing her to stare straight ahead. The right humerus is adducted to the trunk, the elbow is slightly flexed, the forearm is in a neutral position, and her hand is in a natural resting position against the side of her trunk. During the movement phase, she begins by flexing her elbow to prevent her arm from hitting coats that are located directly in front of her. While flexing her elbow, she simultaneously takes a step forward with her right foot, moving the upper extremity even closer to the shelf. Taking this step forward also shifts her center of gravity anteriorly. While flexing the elbow, she extends digits 2 to 5 and palmarily abducts the thumb to the width of the soup can she is approaching, while keeping the forearm in neutral. Once the elbow is bent approximately 90 degrees, she begins to flex the shoulder, allowing for elevation of the hand. Once reaching 90 degrees of shoulder flexion, she begins to extend her elbow, lengthening the distance her can can reach. She fully extends the elbow and flexes the shoulder to approximately 160 degrees, allowing her hand to come into contact with the soup can. While doing this movement, she extends her neck to get a better view of the item she is aiming for and rotates her hip anteriorly. To be able to pick up the can, she ulnarly deviates the wrist to have momentum to pick the can up off the shelf. Due to this ulnar deviation, she must slightly pronate her forearm to line up her web space back up to the circumference of the can. With the forearm and wrist aligned, she uses a cylindrical grasp to pick up the can, consisting of wrist extension, thumb palmar abduction, thumb IP flexion, digits 2 to 5 slight MP flexion, and digits 2 to 5 PIP and DIP flexion. She moves into the follow-through phase by taking a step back to make her legs side by side again and brings the hips back into a neutral position. She begins to lower the shoulder from flexion in an extension direction while simultaneously flexing the elbow to 90 degrees to prevent running into other objects. With her humerus almost fully adducted to the side and the elbow flexed to 90 degrees, she brings her wrist out of ulnar deviation, bringing the top of the can level in her hand, and moves the forearm back into a neutral position. She maintains her cylindrical grasp on the can. She also moves her neck in the direction of flexion and rotation to the right side to watch the can as she moves through the follow-through phase. In the recovery phase, she resumes a comfortable standing position with her right humerus adducted to her trunk, her elbow flexed to 90 degrees, her forearm in neutral, and her wrist in extension with her hand in a cylindrical grasp. This puts the biceps in a sustained position while she is holding the can at 90 degrees of elbow flexion. Being in this static balance position will allow her to complete the next movement for meal prep.